Now I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's going to come. 'Cause out on the edge of darkness there rides a peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Yeah, I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Ooh, ooh. Come on, the peace train. It's peace train, holy roller. Everyone jump upon the peace train. Ooh, ooh. Come on, the peace train. Get your bags together. Go bring your good friends too, 'cause it's getting nearer. It soon will be with you. Come and join the living. It's not so far from you, and it's getting nearer. Soon it will all be true. Oh, peace train sounding louder. Ride on the peace train. Ooh, come on, the peace train. Peace train. Now I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? 'Cause out on the edge of darkness there rides a peace train. Oh, peace train, take this country, come take me home again. Oh, peace train sounding louder, ride on the peace train. Come on, the peace train. It's peace train, holy roller. Everyone jump upon the peace train. Ooh. Come on, come on, come on. Yes, come on, peace train. Hey, yes, it's the peace train. Come on, the peace train. Oh, peace train.
Mass action is always important. Can never ever leave it to Macquarie Street, or for that matter to George Street. There's got to be people's action involving people wider than just the elected officials to determine the future.
The Commonwealth's Glebe project was to revive the old houses and provide new housing designed to be compatible with local character and erected on vacant land, back lanes and large backyards. Only a small amount of infill housing was actually carried out by the Commonwealth. In 1985, the estates were transferred to the state government. The New South Wales Housing Commission's inner city housing team added around 500 dwellings. The lead architect, John Gregory, said the designs were shaped by understanding the rhythm of the subdivisions, respecting the scale and form of the adjoining houses, understanding their architectural vocabulary, and using it in a creative, expressive, and original way. The team's output was remarkable and included apartment complexes, terraces, houses, and adaptive reuse. Each design was unique. The work was well considered in terms of context and topography and was beautifully detailed. These buildings are now in their 30s. 30 is a dangerous age for buildings, not young enough to be hip and not old enough to be historic. Curmudgeonly modernists dismiss them as being pastiche. This shallow assessment fails to recognise their true quality. They represent an unusually sophisticated response to the aesthetic of place in the way they use scale, texture, modelling, pattern, vicinity and variety to respond to the historic townscape, and are well considered in terms of amenity and livability.
This old house once knew his children, this old house once knew his wife. This old house was home and comfort as they fought the storms of life. This old house once rang with laughter, this old house heard many shouts. Now he trembles in the darkness when the lightning walks about.
Ain't you gonna need this house no longer, ain't you gonna need this house no more.
Ain't got time to fix the shingles, ain't got time to fix the floor. Ain't got time to oil the hinges, nor to mend the window pane. Ain't gonna need this house no longer, he's getting ready to meet the saints. This old house is a-getting shaky, this old house is a-getting old. This old house lets in the rain, this old house lets in the cold. Oh, his knees are a-getting chilly, but he feels no fear of pain, 'cause he sees an angel peeking through a broken window pane.
Ain't you gonna need this house no longer, ain't you gonna need this house no more.
Ain't got time to fix the shingles, ain't got time to fix the floor. Ain't got time to oil the hinges, nor to mend the window pane. Ain't gonna need this house no longer, he's getting ready to meet the saints. This old house is afraid of thunder, this old house is afraid of storms. This old house just groans and trembles when the night wind flings its arms. This old house is a-getting feeble, this old house is a-needing paint. just like him. It's tuckered out, but he's getting ready to meet the saints.
Ain't gonna need this house no longer, ain't gonna need this house no more.
Ain't got time to fix the shingles, ain't got time to fix the floor, ain't got time to oil the hinges, nor to mend the window pane. Ain't gonna need this house no longer, he's getting ready to meet the saints.
Ready to meet the saints.
In 1949, the state government resumed church-owned land to the east of the St Phillips Conservation Area for use by the New South Wales Housing Commission. In November 1953, Elizabeth Evatt unveiled the foundation stone for the first blocks of flats. By 1960, 9 blocks of flats had been built. In 1967, the Wentworth estate, as it was known, was completed. In 2008, a consultant advised that there is considerable scope for replacement buildings on the site, provided that they pay due regard to the surrounding area. In 2011, the Glebe Affordable Housing Development Control Plan was approved, allowing buildings of up to 10 stories. The site of the former New South Wales Government garage and depot was also rezoned for high-rise development. The design was to provide a fine-grained urban form along street frontages that fit together to create a human scale and provide places with character and visual interest. It was also required to respect, preserve, and respond to the heritage significance of the surrounding conservation area. The affordable housing project is outside the heritage conservation area, but has now started to colonise it. Inserting towers into conservation areas means it's game over for Glebe's 19th century scale. But there's a problem. How do you insert 2 8-storey buildings into a conservation area which has a 9-metre height limit? It's easy. Do a spot rezoning. Cowper Street has long been the eastern boundary of the St Phillips estate. Now, in a move akin to a planner's version of a gerrymander, it takes a dogleg at its northern end. Sydney's Lord Mayor, Clover Moore, expressed her disquiet about the rezoning application when she said, "The relationship proposals have to the built form of the surrounding community is a real priority for us, and Land and Housing Corporation doesn't believe it has to go through the same steps as every other developer. Every other developer has to respond to our controls and our vision for the community." Sadly, the application was unanimously approved by Council. To try and make the development more palatable, the Land and Housing Corporation commissioned the Prince's Trust Australia to advise on its design. The Prince's Trust Australia is inspired by the vision of His Royal Highness Prince Charles and is based on the UK Prince's Trust which he founded in 1976. The new development is to be known as the Prince's Quarter. In their website, the Prince's Trust explain, "Our goal is to share with the New South Wales Land and Housing Corporation the expertise that has been built up over decades of work by the Prince's Foundation and the Duchy of Cornwall projects in the UK." They claim, "The Prince's Quarter is designed in a way that builds upon the historic identity of this beautiful part of Sydney and aims to show how we can do density well." The world over, communities flourish when an inclusive mix of housing is built with a respect for local identity. Prince Charles has been a leader in working to improve the built environment. His 10 principles of urbanism are an excellent guide to creating livable cities. Principle 1. Developments must respect the land. They should not be intrusive. They should be designed to fit within the landscape they occupy. Principle 2. Scale is also key. Not only should buildings relate to human proportions, they should correspond to the scale of the other buildings and elements around them. Principle 4. Harmony. The look of each building should be in tune with its neighbours. Principle 9. Density. We do not have to resort to high-rise tower blocks, which alienate and isolate. How does the 1980s infill rate by HRH's principles? Developments should not be intrusive. Its form and articulation relates to the neighbouring terrace houses. Buildings should correspond to the scale of other buildings around them. It is 2 stories, in line with its 1- and 2-storied neighbours. The look of each building should be in tune with its neighbours. It has verandas, private open space, a similar pattern of solid to void, pitched roofs, and echoes the pattern of land use. We do not have to resort to high-rise tower blocks, which alienate and isolate. It is low-rise and affords the residents a direct relationship with the street. It has at its core this delightful courtyard with dappled patterns of sun and shade. It is to be replaced by this and this. Thus the charming is destroyed for the charmless. How does the Prince's Quarter rate against HRH's principles of urban design? Development should not be intrusive. These 2 8-story buildings are intrusive. Buildings should correspond to the scale of other buildings around them. They are nothing like the scale of the 1- and 2-bedroom Victorian terraces they adjoin. The look of each building should be in tune with its neighbours. The design is based on the wool stores of Ultimo, a completely different suburb. We do not have to resort to high-rise tower blocks, which alienate and isolate. These apartments will separate their residents from their neighbourhood. There are a number of other land and housing corporation sites, which could be rezoned for high-rise. The Wentworth estate is the Trojan horse. That horse has now crossed Cowper Street, and if allowed to continue, will destroy the scale of the conservation areas. If this happens, private owners of large sites could not unreasonably expect to be able to develop their land to the same height. The biggest Trojan horse of all may well be the new fish market in Blackwattle Bay. Glebe is a high-density 19th century suburb. It has been pulling its weight in housing more people. In the 1980s, around 1,000 bedrooms of public housing were added by low-rise infill. More recently, there has been high-rise development at the fringes. Harold Park accommodates 2,500 people. The affordable housing project includes 450 apartments. The Mezzo development on Wentworth Park, 190 apartments. and pavilions on the bay at Glebe Point 46. To date, the high-rise has been on the fringes. Additional density should be provided by low-rise infill because it respects the urban and social fabric. Stop this contagion. Protect the conservation zones. The 1980s infill has private and shared open space and fits in with the architectural character of the neighbourhood. Public housing tenants have expressed a clear preference for this over high-rise. Since the opportunity exists for more infill, why is the Land and Housing Corporation going down the path of providing inferior housing and destroying one of Australia's most important historic suburbs? The Glebe Society welcomes the provision of additional public housing in Glebe, but deplores the ineptitude with which the New South Wales government is doing it. We are committed to retaining Glebe's urban and social fabric. As Jack Mundy said at our 40th anniversary,
we've got to redouble our efforts to make sure that whoever's in power in Macquarie Street, we've got to tell them that they can't destroy all of Sydney. And therefore we've got to fight for the heritage we own, for the heritage that we've built, and the heritage we want to inherit.